Okay, defensive operations on a tactical level. First thing you probably talk about, like I said, is intel, topography, and weather. First defensive operation would be a linear operation, meaning a country sets up defensive lines, fire bases, garrisons, linear to its border. Um, the first defensive line should be logistically supported by lateral roads with 90-degree roads cutting off to get logistics and supplies to your frontline defensive troops. Then you usually have a fallback line. If you lose the first line, you front a rear guard retreat to the next fallback line already built and in place. You might have 5 fallback lines. You use the topography, and you want to force your enemy into offensive operations that benefit your topography and require less manpower to hold a position. A defensive operation is just like an offensive operation. You have a tactical reserve units, and if the offensive army group puts a breach in your defense, creates a corridor, you want those mobile tactical reserve units to move over, plug and stem the gap, and counterattack. A linear defense operation is basically it's age old. Dates back thousands of years. I'll get in more complicated defensive operations at another video blog. I'm just talking linear here. Linear is basically line north to south, east to west, covering the frontier, and you have to have roads behind that first line of defense, running lateral to the first line of defense with 90-degree roads, so you can supply your troops ammo, food, whatever they need. Defense operations, like I said, require less men than the offensive attacking army group, just because they're on the offense and they're attacking a fortified defensive linear line. In lateral operations, you might have your tactical reserve units moving 150 clicks north to stem a breach, counterattack, rolling back, moving 200 clicks south, stem another breach, counterattack. So those mobile reserve units might be in action 24 hours a day, going back and forth, literally stemming breaches and counterattacking. But it starts in linear operations, and like I said, you evac all young children and females way behind the defensive linear lines, be it 1, be it 10. You conscript men age 14 to 80. Anybody you can train up fast for fighting capacity. Militia, you do that. The ones that can't be really trained or unhealthy or whatever, you get them working on fortifications, building up fortifications, working on roads to supply your units, etc. you put them in a logistics category. And it's pretty much total war when you're doing defensive operations, meaning, like I said, you move your women and children back, and every man 14 to 80 that's not in your army is conscripted and either made a soldier or made a military engineer, improvised military engineer. So, yeah. Defensive operations require a lot less thought. As far as conducting the operation, you kind of just sit idle and see what the enemy's going to do and then react. Versus taking action. Defense is in the offensive operation. The defensive operation, you react to the offensive operation taken against you. So you got your first line, your fallback line, 10 fallback lines. If you keep getting pushed back, you have a rear guard fighting retreat while your HQ and all your other elements are moved to the next linear line of defense. The shorter the linear line, the easier it is to defend. But yet again, it's also more susceptible to being put in a pocket. So defensive operations have to have those mobile or tactical reserve units to prevent offensive flanking operations and offensive pocket operations against you. So defensive, you think totally different mindset wise. It's kind of a wait and see versus drawing up an operational plan. You do draw up an operational plan, but it's a defensive operational plan, which requires less thought. You still need the intel. You need to use topography to your advantage, weather to your advantage. But it's kind of wait and see what the enemy is going to do, and then counter his moves as he does it. So that's just linear defensive operations. Like I said, in general, rule of thumb is one defender for every offensive army group soldier. So you have the advantage there where you don't need as much manpower because those guys are entrenched in defensive strongholds, trenches, garrisons, fire bases, and it requires less troops. An offensive operation requires 3 times as many troops as a defensive operation, which actually, if you're a smart commander, you take the benefit of having less manpower and being able to hold the enemy off, create a stalemate. Like I said, anytime a gap, corridor, breach is put in your linear defensive line, you immediately move mobile tactical reserves to stem the breach, cut off whatever troops got through, pocket them, annihilate them, and immediately counterattack where they breached your defensive corridor, gap, line, whatever. Defense operations are just as important as offensive, and more important. And it mobilizes a nation usually to a total war effort, which means that most people are removed from their jobs and placed in various military manufacturing jobs, be it munitions, foods, whatever, and it's a total war. And the definition of total war is the whole country, society, people are in a state of war, and government rule is overruled by military rule, and you might have to leave your cushy lawyer job or doctor job and be put in a factory making tanks, mortar rounds, rifle rounds, you know. So defense operations are a lot different. And I'll get in more into depth past linear on my next blog. Still pretty cool. I got some things to do this Sunday morning. So that's a little bit more on defensive operations. They're easier as far as having less resources to conduct than offensive. And they're similar in a way in that the defensive HQ has mobile tactical reserves to stem breaches and corridors created by the enemy, cut the enemy off, whatever far they progress into your defensive linear line, annihilate that portion of the enemy, and counterattack all at the same time, using combined warfare. And defense operations go to a tactical level also, and it'll probably take me a week to get the tactical level, offensive, defensive things, but they all involve the same. And I gotta do a couple of Monday morning errands, and I'll be done. So hope I taught you a little bit more about defensive operations. Have a good one. Later.